Now with the latest weekend headlines, it's the ITV News.
Claims of Ukrainian men of fighting age killed in cold blood. ITV News hears accounts of civilians.
I was standing in my garden and I saw 3 young boys walking over here. Their hands were still up, but the Russians just shot them.
Also tonight, who leaked the tax details of Rishi Sunak's wife? Ministers launch an inquiry. Police investigate Cristiano Ronaldo, apparently seen slapping a phone out of a teenage supporter's hand. And
this is ITV News with Lucrezia Millarini.
good evening. ITV News has heard first-hand horrifying details of the killing of Ukrainian civilians and prisoners in cold blood. It includes repeated claims of men of fighting age being shot in the head. Well, today, Ukraine's top prosecutor said that the bodies of more than 1,200 people have so far been discovered in areas previously occupied by Russian forces. Our correspondent Peter Smith travelled to several villages close to the town of Lucrezia, to the west of the capital Kyiv. A warning, his report contains descriptions of events some may find distressing.
These are the villages that lived under Russian occupation. Putin's retreat from northern Ukraine lets us now see the destruction, the vandalism, and the looting in every home. But only those who survived can now tell us what really happened here. In the village of Novykorohod, Elena tells us she witnessed her nephew Sasha gunned down on the street along with 2 of his friends.
I was standing in my garden and I saw 3 young boys walking over here. They had their hands up. Sasha was at the front. Their hands were still up, but the Russians just shot them. Sasha's body fell over here.
In the next village, the people of Andriivka have similar testimonies to tell. Here they are still finding new victims and now able to give them proper burials. This funeral is for Alexei. His body was discovered in a backyard. His post-mortem report is damning.
Cherkovsky Alexei, born in 1990, was taken away as a prisoner of war. His body was found 3 days after that. The forensic team tell us he had been tortured and was then killed by a single shot to the head.
We're then taken to a barn where the bodies of 2 young men were found. Ihor was one of them. We find his mother, who tells us Russian soldiers had dragged him out of the house in front of her. The next time she saw him was at the barn to identify his body.
He was killed by a shot in his ear, his right ear. He was lying down, like he was sleeping when he was killed. I found him with his hands like this. Now I have prepared for the funeral.
In every village we've passed through today, we're hearing more and more testimony that Russian soldiers were executing Ukrainians. What we've been told about in this village is that Russians were trying to destroy the evidence of their war crimes. Maria witnessed 2 men shot in Dmitriivka village and saw attempts to burn the bodies. The 2 men were told to put their hands up and get down on the ground, she says. They did it, but he still shot them. We ask who did it. A Russian, she says. He started trying to burn the bodies over here. I grabbed my pitchfork and told him I would stab him, but he just laughed at me. Then he dug a pit and tried to burn them over there. The Kremlin continues to deny their soldiers committed war crimes, but evidence from here is stacking up. Not a one-off, not a rogue band, but a pattern of civilian atrocities in every town and every village.
Well, Peter, really disturbing images in your report just now. It increases fears of what Russia might do if they advance in the east of Ukraine.
Well, what we are witnessing is the execution of prisoners, the execution of civilians, and these are war crimes, and the evidence is piling up. But it will also be terrorising people who are in eastern Ukraine because they know that a fresh Russian assault on their part of the country is expected imminently. In fact, we've got satellite imagery showing a convoy moving into position. These are Russian tanks manoeuvring into place as Putin prepares for his fresh assault in the eastern region of Ukraine. And that is why Ukraine is saying it is so imperative that they get the weapons that they need to push Putin's troops all the way back to Russia, because as we've been witnessing in our reports and our teams here in Ukraine, phase 1 of this war has been utterly devastating, and phase 2 is just about to begin.
All right, Peter in Kyiv, thank you. Back here, an inquiry into who leaked the tax details of the Chancellor Rishi Sunak's wife is underway. It was revealed last week that Akshata Murthy had so-called non-domicile status, which means she could avoid paying millions of pounds in tax in the UK. She has since said she will now pay her tax on her worldwide income, but Labour says the pair still have questions to answer. Harry Horton has this report.
Just weeks ago, he was favourite to move next door. But after a taxing week, Rishi Sunak has moved his family out of number 11 Downing Street altogether as his political fortunes tumble. On Friday, the Chancellor's wife, Akshata Murthy, bowed to pressure and said she would start paying UK tax on her overseas income. Rishi Sunak has ordered an inquiry to find out who leaked the tax details, which could hardly have come out at a worse time.
The fact that these tax arrangements have emerged when millions of people are facing a cost of living squeeze doesn't look good for the government, does it?
The cost of living squeeze is very challenging for people across the whole of the country. And so for this to arise now is not ideal. But when it does, what you want is for action to be taken. And as I say, in her statement, which I thought was very dignified, the Chancellor's wife, Akshata Murthy, has decided to change her arrangements, reflecting on this sense of disappointment, shall we say, in the country.
Rishi Sunak was reportedly hoping to spend Easter at his family's £5.5 million penthouse in California. He's facing calls to explain why he held permanent resident status in the US until last year.
I think the Chancellor has to still answer a whole series of questions about his tax arrangements, about why he's had a permanent residence card in the US at the same time as being a government minister. At a time when the Chancellor is putting up taxes for everybody else, we need some openness about what his tax arrangements are.
Rishi Sunak's carefully crafted image has taken a big hit in recent weeks, and the damage to his political career could be permanent.
Well, Rishi Sunak and his wife say their tax affairs didn't break the law, but there are questions tonight, I think, about Rishi Sunak's political judgment. Tory MPs concerned that when the public are really feeling the pressure financially, some might feel the man in number 11 appears a bit out of touch. There was a time when Rishi Sunak appeared to be a shoo-in as the next Prime Minister, but tonight some are even questioning whether he'll last the year as Chancellor.
All right, Harry at Downing Street, thank you. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has been ousted from office after losing a vote of no confidence. The former cricketer turned politician has faced criticism over his handling of the economy, while relations with the country's powerful military leaders have become strained. British hauliers transporting perishable goods are asking to be prioritised at Dover, claiming that long wait times are causing products to go bad. The suspension of P&O services, Easter traffic and IT issues has caused congestion. And hundreds of people protested outside Downing Street today, campaigning against the government's decision not to include transgender people on its ban on conversion therapy. Ministers faced criticism after a series of U-turns last week on promises to outlaw the practice. Merseyside police say they're looking into an alleged assault by Manchester United's Cristiano Ronaldo following his side's defeat at Everton yesterday. The star striker appeared to slap a fan's phone out of their hands as he was leaving the pitch. He's since apologised. Sergio Carrier has the latest.
Moments after Man U's defeat against Everton, Ronaldo was limping off the pitch when he seems to have seen red. This footage appears to show him knocking a phone out of a young fan's hand. The boy in the crowd, an Everton supporter, was said to be videoing players heading to the Goodison Park dressing room. Merseyside police are now investigating whether an offence has been committed.
Phones were going in his face and whatnot, but obviously in that moment there was a fan that did have a phone in front of Cristiano, and he did, hit the phone, which ended up on the floor.
The Manchester United forward later posted an apology on social media, writing, "It's never easy to deal with emotions in difficult moments such as the one we are facing. I would like to apologise for my outburst." The incident happened after Everton secured what could prove a priceless victory in their battle to avoid relegation against a lacklustre Manchester United, who they beat 1-0, damaging their hopes of qualifying for the Champions League. Tonight, Manchester United said they would fully cooperate with the police investigation. Sejal Karia, ITV News.
Polls close in the next hour. An increasingly close French presidential election. The far-right Marine Le Pen is thought to have closed the gap on Emmanuel Macron in the final days ahead of the first round of voting. Well, our Europe editor James Mate is at Macron's election night rally. James, what do they think is going to happen?
Well, we'll find out the first projections in about 45 minutes' time. If President Macron doesn't win tonight, it will be pretty seismic. To remind you how this works, all the candidates are voted for today. The top two go ahead into a winner-takes-all runoff in 2 weeks' time. Now, the polls suggest that is going to be Emmanuel Macron versus Marine Le Pen, a rerun of the election from last time. Macron voted today. He's tried to stay above the fray here. He didn't campaign at all until about a week ago, preferring to be seen and negotiating with Vladimir Putin. Well, that absolutely hasn't worked, because coming up behind him has been Marine Le Pen, who everyone thought her best days were behind her, but she has moderated her tone, moderated her anti-immigration and anti-EU language, has focused instead relentlessly on the cost of living crisis here, which is as bad in France as it is in the UK. Macron, with now a record to defend, has proved as helpless to deal with that cost of living crisis as most European governments have. Instead, Marine Le Pen has been promising free stuff to everybody, basically, no tax for the under 30s, no work for the over 60s, and inevitably, perhaps, that is proving very popular. So in this last 2 weeks, Marine Le Pen will go into it with momentum and with a serious chance this time of winning.
All right, James, and we're watching with interest in Paris. Thank you. Sport now, and in Formula One, Ferrari continued their early domination of the new season on the track this morning. Charles Leclerc won the Australian Grand Prix to extend his lead in the championship. World champion Max Verstappen failed to finish because of mechanical problems. Lewis Hamilton finished fourth. The two-time winner this season is now 34 points clear of second-place Brit George Russell in the standings. Finally, it's being billed as a possible Premier League title decider. The top two, Manchester City and Liverpool, are playing each other right now, and it's been just as tight as the battle for the title itself. Chris Scudder reports.
Blue Moon and Man City knew they'd be standing alone and clear at the top if they beat their title rivals here. They could not have dreamt of a better start. Titanic tussle at the top. Chris Scudder, ITV News.
Exciting stuff. And that is it for now. I'm back with the late news at 10. Until then, enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.
There'll be some light cloud early on today, but by lunchtime it will almost certainly clear. Heinz Seriously Good Mayonnaise sponsors ITV National Weather.
Hello there, good evening to you. We're going to end the weekend dry for many of us, although some